Hello, and welcome to the SHRMLabs Workplace Tech Spotlight. My name is Steve Browne. That's terrible. My name is Steve Browne, and I'm the Chief People Officer at La Rosa's Incorporated, and I am the 2024 BWCC Ambassador. I will be your host today for our special episodes of this SHRMLabs series where we shine a spotlight on some of the most interesting future of work innovators, innovations, and issues of today. At SHRMLabs, we are inspiring innovation to create better workplace technologies that solve today's most pressing workplace challenges. And one of the most exciting ways we are pushing the envelope of workplace tech is through our Better Workplaces Challenge Cup. Today, we're featuring the three exciting innovators that will be competing in the fourth annual Better Workplaces Challenge Cup Finals. This three-round competition, which started in March of 2024, features the most innovative HR tech startups from around the globe. During each round of the competition, participants were given the opportunity to pitch their product to a panel of judges composed of HR practitioners and business executives. This year's competition culminates at SHRM's annual conference and expo in Chicago. Next week, these three finalists will have the chance to compete in front of a live audience for a $50,000 cash prize. If you will be attending SHRM 24, be sure to stop by SHRMLabs booth 2068 and come to the Spotlight Stage 1 in Hall B on Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. to watch the finalists pitch live. We hope to see you there. Let us know in the chat if you will be in Chicago. Today, I'm excited to have the finalists with us so you can learn how they are revolutionizing, hard word to say on a Friday, the workplace tech space. Please help me in welcoming to the stage our finalists. Chisa Egbelu, co-founder and CEO of PeduL, Alex Haitoglou, co-founder of Ovida, and Satya Panigrahi, product manager of eLockr. Finalists, welcome to the stage. Before we get into the discussion, I wanted to say congratulations for making it this far through this very tough competition. Just being accepted this year in the competition is a great feat on its own, given the record number of applications we received this year, and you are the finalists. So let's get started. Icebreaker question here. Tell us a little bit about your company, where your company is based out of, and tell us someone who inspires you and why. Chisa, let's start with you.
Sure thing. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, for just here listening to us. My name is Chisa Egbelu. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called PeduL. We are a Gen Z hiring platform. So what happens is companies will send us job descriptions, and we will match those job descriptions with different social media influencers and content creators who create content about that role. So what it does is it takes the job off of siloed job boards like Indeed or Handshake, and it puts it on the platforms that young people use the most. So think TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, even LinkedIn from the perspective of top voices. So we are based out of New Jersey. The question of who inspires me, it's not the easiest question. I think that it changes like week to week, day to day. For some reason, when you asked it today, the first person that came to mind was Kobe Bryant. Yeah, I think that I'm inspired by the work ethic, the focus, the determination, the willingness to do what it takes to get to that end goal. And so I think I'm really inspired by that, especially maybe today as we're like 2 days away from the SHRM conference.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alex, you're up next. Where are you from and what is your company? Who inspires you and why?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Greece, but I spent most of my time as an adult in the UK and various other countries, including a bit in the US, Switzerland, France, Germany, Spain. Our company is based in the UK, but the vast majority of our clients are actually in the US. And who inspires me? I mean, a lot of people inspire me, but one person that I think really comes to mind is I was very lucky to meet about 10 years ago an incredible 92-year-old lady who's at the age of 92 was traveling the world training people on systemic workshops. And that's a process of engaging people in a very emotional, deep process to go through what's happening in your life and to try to improve it. And this lady was like, that week, she was like in call them SHRMLabs. And then we're sitting down having dinner at night, and I asked him, like, what's going on? She said, oh, now that I'm older, Alex, I only do ASIAT twice a year. I was like, what do you mean? So the discussion very, very fast went into my core question, which is what drives you? And she had an incredible life. She died at 101 a couple of years ago. An amazing human being, Maria Gomez, her name. You can find her on Wikipedia. And she said this very simple thing, which was about her belief that the world can be a much better place if we just make small changes across a small number of people. And she says, for me, that number is any 6 or 7 people out of 100. So she said, as long as I'm alive, my mission is to bring us closer to that 6 or 7 people out of 100 that want to make a change. And it was such a powerful comment when she said that, as we were like in a group of people actually in a restaurant, and literally the whole restaurant, it was like a movie, the whole restaurant had quiet down, and we were all listening to her, and she said that. So I thought that was one of the most inspiring things I've seen live from a human being, which about finding your purpose and just living it. And she carried the training up until pretty much the weeks before she died. So that's an inspiration.
Great. Satya, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm from eLockr, and we're an Indian company based out of India. And the primary problem that we're trying to solve from our product is we have a lot of companies that perform background verifications and a lot of HRs that have to answer to these background verification questions that come up. And we sort of wanted to take that hindrance away from their day-to-day work, where the complete process of exit management can be automated from our product. I've been working at eLockr for the past couple of years, and we've been working very hard towards building out a solution which not a lot of companies are offering, either here in India or, as you guys would attest, across the globe, since we've been at this for the last 3 rounds. uh, Coming to my inspiration, so uh, I guess around 7 to 8 years ago, when I was in my late teens, I was very inspired by Vincent van Gogh, a Dutch painter. The thing that really inspired me about Van Gogh was I didn't really get his paintings, and I didn't really understand the type of person he was. But then I slowly started realizing and understanding what he wanted to convey. He found beauty and joy in mundane things, which really is a very beautiful thing to visualize, which not a lot of people can. And which is one thing, like till today, I think it's been 200 years, and we still look at his paintings with the same awe and majesty that uh, I guess wasn't appreciated when he was alive. So yeah.
Great. Well, those are wonderful. All really cool examples. Thank you. So now I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your company, but I'm going to pause here. Don't do a sales pitch because I will come through the internet. Just get the question. I think you're going to get it. It's going to be great. Satya, I'm going to start with you. It's fascinating how eLockr tackles the trust deficit issue in employment applications, especially in places like India. Can you tell us more about the common challenges with traditional background verification processes and how eLockr's verifiable credentials approach overcomes these?
So see, by default, we Indians are very trust deficient in our nature. We don't trust our neighbors. So it's very difficult to trust anyone, like be it employees joining organizations or us employees joining certain organizations. We don't really trust each other very well. And in this process, a lot of paper documents are handed over, or details are handed over, which either could be real or could not be real, which is very difficult for the new employer or the HR to verify. And at times, for the ex-employer, it becomes a question: did this guy really work for us? And they end up spending an entire week trying to identify if there is some backdated records, to which they end up realizing that there was none. So, and at times the employee also suffers in this process. If the employer does not have data, genuine data where the employee was part of the organization, they might end up losing a job, right? So what we wanted to solve here is we wanted to create a technology platform which can be used by HRs as well as the employees. And in general, our vision is not just to limit ourselves towards employment credentials. We want to give employees access to everything, right from their documents, all the documents associated, to their overall journey within the organization. So currently we're focused on the exit process as part of our initial offerings, but we plan to move towards the entire employment lifecycle, right from onboarding to employee engagement. And we want to make this entire process from paper, document, and email driven to a platform driven approach where employees can access all of this information either on a centralized repository, which we currently have, or on a decentralized repository on a blockchain, which we plan to introduce in the future.
Great. Wonderful. Alex, given the significant financial losses and employee disengagement tied to poor leadership, what do you believe are the key barriers preventing companies from investing more in developing these essential skills?
Great. I think first of all, before answering that, I think it's important to just acknowledge how big the issue actually is. The data from SHRM shows, for example, that more than 80% of employees actively say my boss makes my job worse, right? So the lack of communication is really dramatic. Gallup estimates that $1 trillion is lost every year because of employees not being engaged and employee turnover because of bad relationships. So in a world where this is happening, of course, businesses have tried to solve this in many ways. And actually the budget for leadership development only on soft skills is more than 50 billion a year, most of it in the US and Europe. And yet, 2/3 of the people paying for this budget, they're saying that it's not effective. And I think the reason why it's not effective is because we're trying to resolve something which is a behavioral issue with left brain approaches. What I mean by that is giving people leadership books can be great for inspiration, but it will not help someone change dramatically their behavior. Sending people to a 3-day leadership course and expecting them to act differently is a bit like sending someone who hasn't run to a 3-day marathon course and expecting them to run a marathon, right? So this is not going to happen. What we're trying to do currently is we're trying with a left-brain solution, which works for skill transfer, change behavior. And what Ovida does very, very differently, and we think it's really the future of that, is helping people change behavior in the way that we know how to change behavior, the way we learn other things, like, for example, sport, right? You wouldn't expect someone to learn how to play tennis by giving them a book and sending them to a seminar. You get them into trying it, doing it, bit by bit, being able to do that. So what's happening really today is the absence of solutions that truly change behavior and they can show and demonstrate that this behavior actually changes, versus investing in, frankly, the same things that we've been doing for the last 40 years and clearly it's not working, which is books and seminars. And I think that's what we're here to change.
Great. Chisa, you mentioned Gen Z, and they are not engaging with platforms like LinkedIn or Indeed in the same way previous generations did.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the key reasons are behind this shift, and how can companies adapt their recruitment strategies to better reach and attract Gen Z candidates?
Very great question. Well, I think that at its core, the value system amongst the average Gen Zer is going to be different than it was from generations before. You know, we always say on our platform, it doesn't matter if we are working with an accounting firm or a pencil factory. Our candidates want to know, like, how is this company helping change the world, right? And so that type of language is even really different than how we might generally describe a company and like what it does. So for us, we realized, kind of piggybacking off of how Alex was talking about behavior, there were certain behaviors that we witnessed really differently with these candidates. One was that, you know, the platforms that they use the most are night and day from the platforms that we leverage to hire, right? Like when we look at the difference between, I'm just going to say TikTok and Indeed, I think you can probably imagine there's a pretty stark difference in the user experience between those two apps. But then even deeper into that, right? Like, I think that we're dealing with a generation that is more diverse than ever, and in the most beautiful ways, right? Coming from all walks of life, all geographies, all over the world. This call alone, right? Like, there is a reason why the the finals this year here at SHRM is like we are coming literally from 3 different continents to all come together, because that's just how things work today. And so when you have things working like that, you aren't able to just do the same one thing you've been doing before and reach as many people, right? Because like before, maybe we were dealing with a bit more of a monolith, right? A bit more of a targeted, like, hey, maybe I have a factory in Kansas. I am only trying to hire out of Kansas City, right? Like we're not dealing with as a global of a society as we were before. And so what happens is you're dealing, a lot of times we're dealing with an awareness issue. And when you're dealing with an awareness issue, you're dealing with an attention issue, because now you have to captivate their attention to get them to be aware of the opportunities that they are actually qualified and applicable for. And so apps and this is not a shade to Indeed type of talk. Like I respect Indeed what they're doing.
They're watching right now.
Right. I'm like, oh my God. Like this is really like, just the recruiting industry in general, the way we operate, especially with this like mid to entry level roles. We just have like a block of text and we're like thinking that is going to get us the best candidate possible. And that just more often than not won't. So, we need to figure out ways to be better at getting in front of people where they are, so that we aren't, as well as owners and C-suite level individuals, we aren't just trying to harvest out of the same farm. There are farms globally and all over the world, all over the country, with highly talented individuals that we can step into. We just have to go there and get them. And that's what we're building here at PeduL, right? A way to go there and get them.
Great. All right. We're going to get one more round of questions in here before we get ready to see each other in SHRM, because I know Satya is getting ready for a flight. Alex is getting ready for a flight. Chisa and I aren't yet ready yet, but we're getting close.
So, still got a pack.
So real quick on this. Me too. Alex, Ovida emphasizes the importance of deliberate practice in developing leadership skills. Can you explain what this concept entails and why it's crucial for effective skill development?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I find amazing that it happens, and yet we all have done it. I myself, as a manager and leader, have been into that. Is talking to people and giving them feedback on improve your leadership, right? Which is as vague as anything can ever be, right? Where do I start? What do I do? And the fundamental thing, if you're trying to change behavior, and I'll use again the metaphor from sports, right? If I'm trying to learn tennis, I don't go out to practice my tennis. I don't go out first to practice my serve and possibly a specific aspect of it. I master that and then I move into something else. So we break down as human beings very, very successfully. When we want to learn behaviors, we break down to specific things that we need to do, and we deliberately go and practice them. One of the questions I ask many times in businesses is, do you agree that people are the most important aspect of the business? Everyone says, yes, of course, yes. And are leaders important? Yes, Christ, of course. Good. And so we're going to help leaders, we're helping them to improve, right? And we know how they're doing. Yes, great. So I ask leaders in a room, how many one-on-ones have you done over the last week? And the answer usually is between 5 and 8, right? Okay, over your career, thousands. Okay. How do you know how well you're doing on those one-on-ones? And usually I get the rabbits in headlight, right? Because the reality is, most of us, including myself, and look, I've done 2 very senior executive roles, like we don't have a clue. Because we've never seen a perspective of how we come across. What do we do? Especially in those one-on-ones, to start building trust, to listen more, to create more possibilities, to have tough discussions, tough feedback discussions, to have career discussions. So deliberate practice is effectively the process which goes and says, hey, in order to do better in this, let's start with some fundamentals. Let's start, for example, with listening. Okay, there are measures on listening, and what type of listening. We can actually now, with AI, we can actually measure things and be very specific. How much do you listen? When do you listen? How do you listen? Okay, that's one. What about the type of questions that you ask and how do you ask them? What about being present as a leader? What about knowing when going from push to pull? And the beauty of technology the last 3-4 years with machine learning and 2 years now with the large language models, that we can actually measure this and have objectivity about that, which allows us to do, finally, what we have been doing in sport for many years, which is deliberate practice. Hey, for Steve, this is the one thing that I would like you to just go and try and do differently to me, because I might need something different, and Satya and Chisa will need something different as well, and go and build the behavioral change bit by bit, measurably, at scale, without generalist views like, hey, be a better leader, or my other favorite, be spontaneous. That's another really beautiful one. So, so that's the essence, the theory and practice of deliberate practice, and why this makes a huge difference in actual changing leadership behaviors.
Excellent. Okay, thanks for the clarification and the context. Chisa, you mentioned a little, and I'm going to build on a little what you said before. TikTok versus Indeed, monolith versus the text. I get it. So, what unique advantages do social media influencers bring to the recruitment process for Gen Z, and how can companies leverage these influencers to create more effective, and here's the key one, engaging job promotions?
That's great. It's so interesting because when you're using an influencer to talk to their audience, I said it maybe 2 or 3 calls ago when we were doing these auditions and pitches. We're scaling word of mouth, right? Like that's what it's going down to at the end of the day. It's no secret. Like typically recruiting operates most effectively based on referrals, right? Like that's how we are typically going about it. It's referrals and it's word of mouth. That's how you know there's a job opening. That's how you know you should apply to this role. That is like end all be all still the most effective way that all of this takes place. And we're scaling that process. So when you're dealing with these influencers, it's important to note that we're dealing with, career influencers. Respect to her, I'm not talking about Kendall Jenner, right? I'm talking more so about someone that is constantly speaking on how to have the best resume, how to prepare best for the interview. Hey, within the finance industry, here are the certificates you want to focus on, right? Like Career Talk every year, just on TikTok alone, has 2.5 billion views. And so you have these large audiences that have accrued around these individuals. And what you're channeling as an employer through these influencers, you're channeling trust. That like, hey, this is a company that I'm telling you should check it out. Like they're okay. Like I vetted them. I agreed to talk about this. Go check out this company. It's a safe place for you to go be great. And so that is the behavior and the myriad that we are really pushing, right? Like how do we channel trust? Because other than that, you do get a lot of, hey, a job description's dime a dozen. You see them all over the place. But what I don't see out of that job description is, hey, is this really, like, can I trust this role? Like, do I even feel qualified for it? Like, am I even good enough? But when you have someone that you trust saying like, hey, check out this job description, well, you're going to get a candidate that otherwise might not have applied, that is easily very highly qualified. And these individuals are able to accrue these high qualified audiences based on what they talk about and things like that, right? And so you're able to get a higher engaged candidate that is not just going to be engaged through the content viewing, but they're going to be more excited to go through the process because their friend told them about it. It might not be their friend that they know in real life, but like that's how things work now, right? This friend of mine that I watch all the time, they told me about this job and I'm going to take it serious. And I'm going to go in there and I'm representing them. So that's how that kind of goes about it.
I like it. That's really fun. All right, Satya, you're going to wrap us up. Let me give you the question. I love the idea of giving individuals more control over their own employment data. How does eLockr ensure that candidates have more choice and control over their own data? And what impact do you see this having on the overall hiring process?
So I'd like to start with the impact aspect of this because that is something that we're really excited about. So eLockr as a product, even though we've built to create a dynamic system where employees and in general individuals can access their employment information and control this information, which I'll talk about in a minute. The impact that we see from eLockr is huge. And why do I say it's going to be huge? So India and like our primary target audience for now, we are focusing on countries in the MENA region, African continent, and Southeast Asia. And the reason for that is these are low-income countries. Like most of the countries in these places are low income countries, where we identify that a lot of blue collar workforces do not have any record of their employment history, which leads them to not get any access to any loans or services or visas. So all of these go away for them. It's like they, even if they've spent 10 years into working at one place or maybe even at three places, they have no access to such opportunities because they have no employment information with them. This is where we see eLockr making the biggest impact. We want these blue collar workforces. Like in a country like ours, India, we have around 50% people working into the blue collar workforces professionally, and most of them do not have access to their employment. And we want to sort of change this. We want to create a system where everyone, not just people like us who have white collar jobs, who have knowledge jobs, have access to our employment information and can control our information. But we also want people who maybe do not do jobs which are as exciting or as fashionable as ours, but are very critical to the functioning of a society and a country in general, have the same level of access of information, have access to the same level of opportunities like we do. And this is where we feel eLockr will have its biggest impact. Uh, Coming back to your question about how we handle data, or rather how the employee gets to handle their own data. So right now, what we have is, as soon as a credential gets issued to you, you get notified that your ex-employer has issued your credential on eLockr. And going forward, you can use this information, share a QR code or share a verifiable link to any verifying party. Now, that verifying party can be a new organization that you're joining, where the HR can simply just scan the QR code or click the link and get the information there. It can be a visa verifying agency, having just recently participated in the visa process. It's not very easy, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it becomes quite easier for them to get accesses to visas to different countries this way. And it also helps them get bank loans, as banks don't have to take 500,000 pages of documents just to see if you're eligible for a loan or not. So this is where we see the employee sort of getting use out of the information which is present on eLockr. As to how do they control this? Whenever these verifying parties scan the QR code or click on the link, the candidate will get a notification that someone is trying to access this information. This notification also contains information about the purpose of this verification, as to why they want to access this information. And now it's up to the candidate or the employee to either accept or deny. I mean, if it's a genuine case, they won't deny it. And if it is, then they will accept it. And this is essentially how we see it. We want the information to be present with the candidate, with the employee, so that these verifications do not happen on the fly, where the candidate has no information who is verifying their information, when it was verified, and then they bring a call from their previous organization's manager. Someone actually called me asking for your information. What should I tell them? That is not how we want the world to be. We want the employee to know whenever, at whatever time the candidate's information is getting access, no matter where they are, whether they are living in a small village in Nigeria, or whether they are living in Singapore somewhere.
Great.
That's how.
All right. Well, I know that's just a snapshot, and I can't wait to see you guys in person when we meet in Chicago in a little bit. So thank you for joining us for this special episode of the Workplace Tech Spotlight. Thank you for joining us, Chisa, Alex, and Satya. It's been wonderful talking to you and getting to know you over these months. And I can't wait to see you all live. And we hope everybody who's watching and enjoyed this. If you would like to connect with our finalists, please visit them at the following sites: PeduL.com, which is PEDUL.com, Ovida.io, which is OVIDA.io, and eLockr, which is ELOCKR.io. The finalists will be competing in the finals at the SHRM 24 this coming Tuesday, June 25th at 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Central Time. For those of you coming in Chicago, we hope you can join us in person or virtually to see who will be crowned this year's champion. To learn more about this competition, please visit our site, betterworkplaceschallengecup.com. If you enjoyed this live stream, please share it using the hashtags SHRMLabs, WorkplaceTech, and SHRM. Visit us at SHRM.org /labs to stay up to date. We'll see you next time on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us.